Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemaphilepod.com. With a mixture of humor, outrage, and passion, Make a Circle follows a group of childcare providers determined to change how society views the education of its youngest citizens and their own profession. The film looks at a broken system where over 14 million American children are now being cared for and educated. The fact that we pay so little money, we allow so much responsibility put upon these wonderful people who do the work. And this film is about that and about an attempt to change that perception. Our priorities are often about where we put our money. And it's obvious to anyone who's looked at this issue that we are not prioritizing the youngest among us to come into this world as educated and also well balanced and taken care of. And this film goes a long ways towards addressing many of those issues. Again, it's called Make a Circle, and we're joined today by the co-directors, Jen Bradwell, as well as Todd Boekelheide. To both of you, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for
Happy
having
to
us,
be here.
Mike.
Just a wonderful documentary film, very concise in the telling of the story. We focus on three women. This field seems to be dominated by women who are the educators and the ones who take care of our youngest. Well, this is Patricia, Charlotte, and Anne. They all are involved in caring and educating. I mean, this is an educational opportunity, right? It's not really daycare. This is more, we are trying to teach our youngest the first time they're exposed to education in their lifetimes. And all of these people are so dedicated and so much a part of making this a great experience. Jen, I'll start with you. What was the impetus for you to get involved in this particular project?
Yeah, it's such a huge issue without a ton of storytelling, considering how many millions of kids and millions of parents rely on this. And also, there's over 1 million people that do the work of early care and education in our country, and it's kind of invisible. It's kind of this private struggle. Like, how do people find and afford childcare? How do you persist in a field that pays on average $13 an hour nationwide? I mean, that's the reality. And yet we've had all this great research for years now about how important those 0 to 5 years are for brain development, how, every dollar that we invest in the early years returns $7 over the course of that kid's life when you look at all the societal benefits. And yet, we're still kind of walking around with these myths about early care and education. Those people they're just like babysitters. They're just, they're just changing diapers all day. Real learning starts in kindergarten. And, the science says actually that's not true. Like, learning starts on day one. And so really what we need to do is make that visible. Let's show the youngest kids with their gears turning. Let's show like what it means for families. Let's show all these really talented and charming teachers in their element so that we can properly value what we do. Every other wealthy country in the world has figured this out except us. So let's change the culture so that we can change the policy.
And just to your point, there's no disputing the facts that you're referring to in terms of the earning ability, the stability of their lives. There's so many positive things in that the research has revealed about getting children in an educational environment as soon as we can. Todd, describe for our audience where you were filming, and what is the sort of breakdown of which communities, who's taking advantage of this wonderful resource?
Well, the film we filmed in three different environments. So
Okay.
one was a center-based childcare facility in Berkeley, where our kids were, and that demographic there is people
Okay.
who can manage to live in the Bay Area and pay for that. It's
Okay.
not easy, right? And
Okay.
so those kids are not economically disadvantaged. Charlotte teaches in Oakland, and many of the kids that go to her childcare are state subsidized because of the parents' low incomes. And so, yeah, there was that factor for them. Similarly, Patricia in San Jose, many of her students are also
Okay.
from low income families. But yeah, I mean, you talk about these people can benefit the most from this work. I mean, any child can benefit from this work. And, since one of the great outcomes of really good high quality early learning is that you learn how to share, you learn how to get along with people, you learn how to be part of a society that is functional. Look around us in America right now, not to get political, but
Yeah.
we live in a culture that is increasingly not conducive to getting along, right?
Yeah.
We need to change that. And I think the best way to change that is to start at the beginning.
Okay, well, let me reframe that because I think what you said is absolutely correct in terms of who benefits and all. But why isn't this a priority? What is it about this particular issue around this early education for children seems to be such a low priority, Jen? Why is that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're only up against, a few hundred, if not thousand years of racism and misogyny when it comes to how we look at this work. There's a history of, especially women of color. There's a teacher in our film, Leela. She's a preschool teacher, and she's like, there's a long history of people who look like me taking care of white children and neglecting their own in the process. And we see this teacher get pregnant and she has her baby, and yet she cannot afford to send her baby to the preschool that she teaches at. It's too expensive and she earns too little. Thankfully, the school has made it a priority to give very low tuition for those teachers so that there isn't that gross inequity. That's not a typical thing across the field. But we're, again, like in all of our work and with impact documentaries, a lot of what we're trying to grapple with is that there's all this great research and data that tells us how we can have more prosperity and less suffering, and yet people are not adopting those ideas. And storytelling can be the bridge between those two things, where you see examples of what is possible, you have a positive vision of what we're fighting for. You fall in love with these people that are going on their against the odds journeys for the greater good. And that feels, it's educational, but it's activating for us. That's what keeps us in this very glamorous world of independent documentary filmmaking. But so we're parents of young kids, and that's how we came at this issue. With the preschool teachers that we were connected with came to us and said, like, we're we're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. We're sick of being looked at as babysitters. What do you think about doing storytelling that really makes the skill and the joy and the impact of our work visible so that we can properly value it?
And that visibility is really that's what drove us to do this and to keep it going when it's not easy to make a feature-length documentary, an independent documentary. So, the visibility of the work. I mean, as taking our kids to preschool at the beginning, we were like, we don't know what goes on beyond those doors. We had a walkthrough when Jen was pregnant and we loved the place and it was clear they knew what they were doing. We thought, oh my God, if we can get our kid in here, we will be fine. But most parents, I would say, I don't know about most, but many parents, you take your child to childcare, you're relieved because you can go do the work you need to do, but you don't know a whole lot about what happens. I mean, the kids are happy when you pick them up, you figure that must be a good place. But what does the work look like? And can you see it as learning? It's like learning is not just sitting down at a desk and writing letters. I mean, you learn from day one, as Jen said, and you learn through play, you learn through cooperation, you learn through repetition, you learn through routine. These kids, there's a lot that these teachers know about what makes kids happy and productive and comfortable. And I think all families that have kids in childcare are happier families because so much of their lives works.
And there's a lot of scenes in the film in Make a Circle where you're seeing a teacher provide kind of a way forward between two arguing or three arguing kids about something
Yeah.
so that you're seeing different versions of acknowledgement, apology,
Yeah.
cooperation. And these are you're absolutely right. I mean, we kind of alluded to it. There's sort of almost a it's almost cynical now to think about these as being valued in our society. And it's not just America. Most places in the world are going through some version of an inability to see each other as in our humanity.
Yeah.
And this is the best opportunity we're going to have with humans is at this point in their lives. This is it. This is the foundational of things that as they're beginning to learn, they're beginning to learn how cooperation and seeing each other as people is
Yeah.
the most important thing probably that we can teach them. I mean,
Yeah.
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 to
Well,
No, we like to think about, getting kids ready for like writing and
yeah.
math concepts, then that's important too. They should you want to give those skills so that they can succeed in school and go on to be a productive, working member of society. But some of those most important skills are the social emotional ones. And there's, like one of the scenes that you're talking about in the film is teacher Dan, our signature male teacher that we wanted to include to make this clear, like this is not just women's work that is possible. He is teaching these two kids who are having a fight over a swing and who gets to sit in the swing. And it's a bit of a Maury Povich moment where these
Hmm.
two toddlers, girls, are just kind of going at each other. And he is able to stay calm in this moment, keep the kids safe, keep them, a little separate from each other, and give them the language to say, I want to turn. I was using that instead of, beating each other up. I don't know any parent out there who would be able to stay as like calm and regulated and offer that kind of language to two children. I can't think of any parent that would be able to do that. That this is what a skilled preschool teacher is able to do. It's amazing to kind of see it in action. It's not something we are normally privileged to see. And I think a lot of us parents are really lucky to be able to learn from early educators.
yeah.
Like some of us were like, oh my God, I can't believe you're letting me leave the hospital with a baby. I have no
Yeah.
idea what I'm doing with a small child. And if
Yeah.
you were lucky enough to land in a quality childcare environment like that, these folks feel like the parenting manuals that people say don't exist. It's
And yeah.
incredibly
And that's one of
valuable
the
part of
really
the family.
that's
Yeah.
one of the unseen things about that work is that, if you can build a relationship between the parents and the teachers, everyone benefits. The teachers learn more about the home life, the parents learn how to be better parents, and it is just positive all around.
Yeah, and I'll say without revealing way too much about myself, is that that is one of the most important life skills that it took me decades to understand that I could respond to something that angered me and not feel like this was going to end up in one of us being injured in some
Yeah.
manner of speaking, either physically or otherwise. That
Yeah.
I could do that. I could actually talk to some, or they could talk to me, and I didn't necessarily have to lash out because I had no real life experience in that regard. I was
Yeah.
so rarely would anyone that I was afraid to do what you see in the film. Literally
Yeah.
afraid to engage someone in the way that we see those two young, very young girls on that swing trying to figure out how to navigate the way forward. There was another scene, and I'm not quite sure to make of it, but where there's three young girls and they're in a kind of in a corner and one of them is being either they're putting makeup on her or they're putting things on her face or explain to me because I found that so fascinating to watch the three, I believe it was three young girls doing that as it seemed cooperative and it seemed nurturing in some ways, but I wasn't quite sure what go how would you characterize that, Jen? What was
That
that?
was
Or
wow,
go
yeah,
ahead,
I'm
Todd.
gonna
Go
let
ahead.
Todd take this
Yeah,
actually, because
go ahead,
these
Todd.
scenes are kind of his baby.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
I love that kind of scene. It's wordless. It's
Yeah.
slightly slow motion, but there we were. I was behind the camera. Jen was next to me. We were in this doorway looking into this tiny little space, and here were these three girls. Just one of them started by, there was something like a Q-tip that she pretended to be, using to put on lipstick, and then the play expanded from there, and they were kind of using plastic toys as if they were going to curl her hair. And it just happens so naturally. And the girl who's being made up, as it were, just allows this to happen without any fear. They're coming at her with, a colander as if it were like a hair dryer or something. but just the trust and
Yeah.
love and just kind of having this fantasy together of a makeup scene, right? It's an incredible scene, if you ask me, and it was just amazing to be there. I was just hanging on for dear, just hoping that everything was going to work out, the camera would keep working, and that we could capture this moment because it is quite something.
Yeah,
It,
we
it,
tried to do,
oh,
several of these moments kind of sprinkled throughout the film where you're really just like slowing down
yeah.
and you're in the kids' point of view and appreciating their process of discovery, their play. And let's, ki young kids can be, really cute or really annoying or really magical, but like let's take their experience seriously and try to visualize what learning looks like for young children.
Yeah, and I will say honestly, if people, I mean, if you were going to say clip out 30 seconds or a minute of the film and say, well, why is this important? I would clip that out because it provides us with all the things you're hoping to get from an environment like that at that point in their lives.
Yeah.
That they have that level of trust, that they let cooperation, if you want to call it that, bonding, all of the things that you would want for
Almost
every
almost
kid.
dreaming awake together.
Yeah,
they're kind of in a fantasy that they share.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kind of mimicking the adult world and what they understand about femininity and makeup too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in that moment there, and it's something that, that film is a great unique medium to
yeah,
explore, that you can't necessarily do in
yeah.
still photographs or the written word.
And given the acculturation of most men, certainly in American society, it's almost inconceivable that three boys would be doing some, I don't know what that version of three boys doing that would be, but
Yeah.
pretending to be, cowboys. I don't know what that would be, but sexist here, but seems women are so much more predisposed to that behavior. And again, maybe I'm crazy or out of my depth here, but I just can't imagine three boys. I mean, sure they do some version of that, but not like that.
We can hope, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I mean, really,
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, we teach boys not to do those kind of things.
that's
So
true. Yeah.
I want to get to another part of the film that is important in its own way, and it's because it's about the politics, it's about funding, it's about really taking care of the people who take care of our children. But before I do that, I want to remind everyone that we're speaking with the co-directors of a wonderful documentary film called Make a Circle. It will be premiering on PBS, I believe September 1st. I think I have that correct, and a
Yes.
number of different stations around California and hopefully around the entire PBS network. It's being made available to PBS by KQED, the San Francisco-based media outlet for PBS. And also, we are speaking with the co-directors, Jen Bradwell and
Yeah.
Todd Boekelheide. And for your work here is wonderful. And let's talk about the politics. Let's talk about Childcare United, the union that has kind of coalesced around getting these people what they need in terms of support and financial security.
Yeah, yeah. This was a really important part of making this film was not just to, showcase all the amazing things that early educators are doing for kids and families and our communities, but also show examples of their advocacy in action so that they can actually be compensated a livable wage and basic benefits so they can actually stay in the work. And we were really lucky to sync up with some childcare providers that were also very active in a very new union for childcare providers in the state of California. These are family childcare providers, so people who run childcares out of their homes, and they're taking kids who are low income enough to qualify for a state subsidy. So they are effectively state contractors, and yet the state was just, paying them pennies on the dollar of what it actually costs to run their programs. So it took these providers 20 years just for the state to be able to say, okay, fine, we'll let you form a union. You can collectively bargain. Governor after governor in California vetoed a bill that would have allowed that to happen until Gavin Newsom in 2019 said, okay, you can form a union. So that finally got them a seat at the table. And the story that we follow in the film is a contract battle they're having with the state of California, where the state was telling them things like, you were essential in the pandemic, but you're not essential anymore. And they're like, we are like some of the economic engines of the state of California. You need to pay us. Like we can't survive. Like most of these providers are not even paying themselves a salary. And when they do, it's like effectively a few dollars an hour, less than minimum wage. So it's pretty extreme working conditions and pay and very low benefits. So it's an example of these folks coming together and raising their voices and say, we're a political force to be reckoned with. Like we're not going to accept the status quo anymore. It's amazing. They have some really significant, against the odds wins in the film. And then we also acknowledge that like not every early educator can be part of a union. And so what are the rest of us going to do to actually value this so that families can have access to what they need and the early educators can just like afford groceries and rent.
Todd,
It
you want to
provided
comment?
a very dramatic ending to the film where it was just on tenterhooks. You didn't know how it was going to go, and I don't want to give it away from
No.
people who haven't seen the film, but the outcome is fascinating to watch.
I just want to be on the other side of this political discussion. I want to know what the argument against this is. I mean, I know, you can talk about budgetary issues and all and a lot of things that it would somehow be at least an argument to be made. But the other side of the argument is overwhelmingly positive in regard to paying people enough money to be able to survive and to make a living doing it. And hopefully, as you do, you attract more and more people to this incredibly important field.
Well, that was our
Yeah.
brief for the film was to make, to let people see the work, see that it is valuable, see the outcomes and just change the consciousness. I think it takes time, but narrative change is what's needed. We need to all see these folks as professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like taking our perspective as parents of young children, we went into debt to have two kids in preschool at the same time. Everyone knows, especially for mothers that take a break from the workforce, it's really hard to get back in. And so it was worth it for us to go into debt to keep both of us working full time. And so we knew that we were paying so much. We also knew that like no teacher is getting rich off of this. We saw a lot of really talented folks leave reluctantly, to work at like Starbucks or UPS, not hard work, but better paying work for them. And even at that time, like we weren't necessarily connecting those private struggles to a policy issue. It's just like, this is how it is. We've got to muscle through. This is how it works in our country. And I guess, we'll have some relief when they can start public school and kindergarten. That consciousness of like, these are not like personal failings, personal struggles. These are actually public issues
Yeah.
that need a lot more attention. And it's just like a bigger coalition of people saying, hey, we need to prioritize this. Like, you're absolutely right. There's no reason on earth that we should not be investing more in early care and education. There's no solid economic, moral, et cetera, argument for that, but it never quite gets prioritized. And part of that is the culture, it's the visibility. And so that's really the role of storytelling is to bring it into the zeitgeist more and show what's possible.
Yeah, and you can't just show how, I mean, the work is joyful because children are amazing and that just that environment is so enlivening. So I understand how the teachers love the work and they do. They're super dedicated and they do it despite the economic unfairness of it. But that's not enough, you can't just do it for the love if you can't eat or have rent. So we needed to show both sides, both the love of it and the beauty of it, but also the struggle.
I think that's part of the problem is it doesn't look hard because people love doing it, right? I mean, if if you had a sledgehammer or a jackhammer, you're beating on pavement all day long, and you get more money. Well, that is hard work, right? But we just I think there's a mindset that if
Mhm.
you like it that much, maybe we don't need to pay you to do
Same
it. I
goes
don't
for
know. I don't
documentary
know.
filmmaking.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why that, when you walk
Because we
into
don't
one,
get to see it. We don't get to see how difficult it is and what it
yeah,
looks
Yeah.
like to be trying to help this kid with a tantrum here and these kids fighting over a toy here and like somebody else needs to be fed. Oh, and you still need to teach them their ABCs and not have them in soiled diapers, deal with like the messiness of all the families and the parents, etc. It's a
yeah,
huge range of skilled work that they are bringing. And yes, it's joyful, but God, it is really difficult. And Todd and I were both hoping that by like spending more time in the classroom with these teachers that we could understand like how do you do it? How do you do this day in and day out? We would be just like exhausted and overwhelmed. I don't think we're cut out for this. Even after spending years with them, I have to say like I still don't get it. I think it's just really special people that are drawn to this work. And if this is your calling, then our societal duty is to support you to stay in it because the rest of us benefit so much from it.
Yeah.
right.
And I want to see some of these politicians that ignore this and sweep it under the rug. Go ahead and go try taking a day and teaching in that in a T school. Let's see how it goes.
Maybe we
Yeah.
should put all the legislators in, teach daycare for a week
Yep.
somewhere and then see
That's
what they
something.
come back and say.
No, that's something the union actually has organized is like, walk a day in these people's shoes.
There you
So
go.
yeah, you'll have somebody who is in a legislature and they'll spend, actually it turns out to be more like half an hour, but they go and they, and it's a photo app off and, so it's not necessarily the test that you would wish it would be, but
No, a week. You,
yeah,
you got to do a week at least,
yeah,
just to kind of get, okay, now project that over 6 months. How would you? But yeah,
yeah,
you're absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I wish they could put their feet to the fire a little longer if they're take a step back,
yeah.
make a circle, film.com. You can go there and find out more about the work that you have done with this wonderful documentary film, as well as people like Patricia, Charlotte, and Anne, what they do on a regular basis every day to make sure your children get the best possible education, come out of it emotionally and psychologically in the best possible place they can, cooperative young people and hopefully good citizens as they move forward in their lives and beyond. So my hats off to you for your work here. Not only this, but your past work in the world of film is amazing. So thank you both. Thank you both for your work. And again, on September 1st, PBS, you can go to pbs.org or PBS, you go to the PBS app, check your local listings for your PBS station near you, and check out Make a Circle. Jen Bradwell and Todd Boekelheide, thank you both very much for your work, and I look forward to more. I mean, I hope you're working on something right now, and come back and join us again. Thank you.
Yeah, we're working on kind of a spin-off mini documentary series based on the film. So that's going to be an exciting chance to expand the story and
Oh,
have it be for like a social media friendly format too.
oh, fantastic. Oh, well, good. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that, and for your previous work as well.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Thanks,
You're
Mike.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.